I'm your host, Sal Mercogliano. Welcome to this episode. So this is ongoing as we speak. Just happened a few hours ago. Still getting information about it. I want to talk a little bit about what we know so far about the vessel, because as a bulk carrier, there's a lot of things that we can surmise about what happened. Now, let's talk for a moment about the fact that this ship was just passing the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Obviously, the Port of Baltimore has been in the news quite a bit with shipping. We've had the motor vessel Dolly accident. We had the motor vessel Everforward go aground after passing the Francis Scott Key Bridge and failing to make its turn, heading to the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. And of course, we had season 2 of The Wire. So a lot going on in the Port of Baltimore when it comes to ships and shipping. But let's take a look at what happened with W Sapphire on the way out of the port. So this is the latest update from the Maryland Department of Emergency Management. They are aware of the cargo ship fire near the Baltimore harbor and monitoring. At this time, there are no reports of injuries or property damage beyond the ship. The explosion seemed to have been focused on the vessel, and that is all. All right, we're going to head over here to marine traffic, and this is W Sapphire's position right now. She is underway. She continued underway the entire time. She is heading southbound right now for a holding anchorage. Don't expect her to go past the Bay Bridge right now. The Annapolis and Chesapeake Bay Bridge is right here. She's probably going to go into a holding anchorage. Here is W Sapphire right here. This is the Bay Bridge. She's coming in right now. She is showing underway at 4.3 knots, heading basically south at this time. She has a range of vessels with him. Zeus, a tug, is down here kind of leading the way, kind of running screen. You have several other boats. Coast Guard 45640 is there. Marine 1 is right after her. And then she has a phalanx of tugs with her. George James Moran with her. The Bridget McAllister, the Vicky McAllister, the John R. Fraser, Isabella McAllister, and the Classy Lady. So she is with a phalanx of ships, making sure that nothing can go wrong at the time. Images show the fire is out. It was a very quick fire. It was a flash. And what we think it is potentially one of two things. On a bulk carrier like this, it is probably either a gas explosion, a vapor gas explosion, or a dust explosion. If we go back and look at her track, she came out of the Port of Baltimore, specifically out of Curtis Bay. You'll see here at the berth at Curtis Bay, this is the CSX coal terminal right here. Now, this is not actually Sapphire, W Sapphire in here. This is just a Google snapshot, but this is the coal pier right here. You can see the coal pile and then the elevators that bring the coal out and then load. So you load coal down into each of these hatches on the vessel. This is why she's called a bulk carrier, because she carries ore and other material in bulk. Here's the information from marine traffic on the vessel. W Sapphire is a bulk carrier built back in 2012, 13 years ago, sailing under the flag of Liberia. 81,681 tons. Current draft is reported to be 14 meters. That is equal to 45 feet. Her overall length is 229 meters. That is 751 feet. The Port of Baltimore is dredged down to 50 feet, so these are very deeply laden vessels that are coming out. The ship was sailing from Baltimore for Port Louis in Mauritius. Mauritius is an island located out in the southern Indian Ocean. Here's our port calls going back since June. American ports up until roughly around July, and then made a run over to Morocco, then a stop over at Las Palmas, and now here in the Port of Baltimore. Her beneficial owner is showing as W Marine out of Greece. The registered owner is Linville out of Liberia. The manager, the commercial manager, the technical manager, W Marine, also out of Greece. The ship was built at Kadic Shipbuilding in China. She's classified under Lloyd's Register and insured through the P&I, Guard P&I in Norway. All right, I'm going to do my best Juan Brown impersonation here and walk you through the events. This time frame, 21:20 UTC time, 4-hour difference between Baltimore and Greenwich Mean Time. So the time of the accident is 22:27 and 58 seconds. Here is W Sapphire. She hit the Lynn Moran up forward, the Bridget McAllister back aft, and they're going to be getting underway at this moment here. Go ahead and let that play for you. They'll pull her out and spin her around in Curtis Bay. and get her spun around. You'll see them get her lined up, and she's going to proceed now to head out of Curtis Creek. We see the time advancing. Now, she is heading to the old Francis Scott Key Bridge. You see that Google has updated this. You see the missing bridge here. And it was shortly after leaving the bridge, and it said 22:27 is roughly the time we have. And so she is heading out just past Fort Carroll, and this is roughly that moment at the time. Zeus is coming out astern of her. She came out without any tugs on her, which is kind of fairly standard practice right now because the bridge being cleared. We're going to go ahead and let this play. This is right at that moment of the explosion. And what we see here is the quick calling of ships. Bridget McAllister is coming in. Zeus coming in from behind. We can see other vessels coming in. Here comes the fire rescue boat number 2. This is 22:43. So this is 15 minutes after the explosion has taken place. And here comes fire rescue boat number 2, 19.6 knots, followed by the George James Moran coming out. Notice Sapphire is still continuing her outbound run, trying to clear the harbor and get away from everything. Here comes more McAllister tugs, more Marine fire rescue units, and what we see is the Coast Guard arrive on scene with vessels coming in. We can see this is the Baltimore County Fire Department showing up on scene. I'm not sure why they have the largest vessel. I don't think this is accurate for the size of the Baltimore County Fire Department. Could be wrong. They could have a huge ship out there, but I think that's just not showing right. But Sapphire is heading outbound at this moment. And then you see the Baltimore County Fire Department and the 2 fire marine units turn around. That fire went out very quickly on board the ship. And so they were able to get control. And this is what makes me think it was either a gas or a dust explosion, because you didn't have the cargo or the ship itself ignite. So you may be wondering why I haven't shown you the video of the ship exploding. Well, that's because while I was filming this video, I had already emailed out StreamTime Live, the group that captured the video of the ship coming out of the port of Baltimore, and asked permission to use it, like a good guy that I am. This is the note I got back from them. They want $2,500 to use it for TV media rights. They want $5,000 for the social media rights to use it. If you put this on your Twitter feed or something like that, you may want to take it down, because they want $5,000 to do it. I have no idea how many people are going to watch this video. The idea that I'm going to pay $5,000 for a grand total, and I measured it, by the way, of 10 seconds of explosion is nuts. I am happy to promote their channel, to talk about it. You saw Marine Traffic on here. Marine Traffic, I don't pay Marine Traffic. Marine Traffic doesn't pay me. I just promote Marine Traffic. I do it with a lot of other areas. So anyway, in case you're wondering, I had a great breakdown for you with that. I will have the link in the show notes down below. So that gives me the kind of belief is it's probably more of a methane gas explosion than a dust. You usually get dust explosions when you're loading grain and coal. Dust gets very fine and it kind of atomizes in the air, and all you need is a spark and woof, it goes. I've been a firefighter for 25 years. The only time I've ever gotten singed on a fire was putting out a trash pile, and it had a batch of sawdust in it. I hit it with the hose, the sawdust went up in the air, and it exploded. I mean, just absolutely exploded. And I've got many friends who still sail these days. I'm a former merchant mariner who have dealt with these issues before. So why else do I think it may be a methane explosion? This was out from the International Institute of Marine Surveyors. They put this out in February of this year, a U.S. Coast Guard safety alert about the explosion hazards of shipping coal. On November 27, 2024, approximately 100 miles off the coast of Virginia, a bulk carrier shipping a type of coal called Bailey High Volume Coking Coal experienced consecutive explosions in the 2 forward cargo holds. While still under investigation, the explosions are likely a result of the accumulation of methane gas that created an explosive atmosphere that resulted in significant damage to the 2 associated cargo holds. It was soon discovered that the other 5 holds had also had highly elevated levels of methane that were approaching the lower explosive limit, presenting an immediate threat to the safety of mariners and the ship. Now, like everything in shipping, it is highly regulated. The International Maritime Organization, the UN shipping arm, has a code out there, the International Maritime Solid Bulk Cargoes Code. This is an international convention that deals with the shipment of bulk material. It creates requirements for monitoring of cargo on board. This notice was put out by the West P&I Club. Now Guard is the one that has the P&I insurance on W Sapphire, but in this case, this is another P&I club. They put out this prevention notice. Some coal cargoes can produce methane. Since methane is a flammable gas, the International Maritime Solid Bulk Cargoes Code requires vessels loaded with coal to monitor the concentration of methane inside the cargo holds via external sampling points. Portable gas detectors are carried for this purpose. However, in the club's recent experience, it would appear that some crew members may not be aware that the readings for methane may be incorrect if the amount of oxygen inside the hold is low. So lots of times what you get with methane detectors is a reading of lower to upper explosive limit. So you're reading a percentage. Basically, where are you within the explosive range of methane? I should note that bulk carriers typically don't carry inert gas systems. This is the system that basically pumps in nitrogen from the ship's exhaust to lower the oxygen levels. It's not a big enough issue to do that. Instead, what happens on bulk carriers is you have gas detectors in the hold to monitor the offsetting of any gas, particularly methane. If, however, the oxygen changes in the hold, that can throw off your explosive limits. Again, firefighter kind of know this stuff. The issue here is, were the detectors up and running on board W Sapphire? Were they monitoring? Did they know that they potentially had a large methane explosion? A dust explosion, which I initially thought it may have been, could have really only been done during loading, or if they opened the hatches for some reason. I can't foresee them opening hatches when they're underway. So methane becomes the more likely culprit. We're already seeing notices that the port's probably going to be closed until the Army Corps of Engineers can get out to the area where the explosion took place, make sure there's no damage to the area, that the channel is clear. There could have been debris that had been blown off the vessel, so they're going to have to want to sweep the channel, make sure it's clear. So you can expect to see the Port of Baltimore closed at least for tomorrow or part of tomorrow, until they ascertain that. I imagine W Sapphire will sit at that anchorage north of the Bay Bridge, waiting to get inspected, to be surveyed before they allow the vessel to go on. And obviously they'll want to gas test all those holds to make sure that there are no other issues. Again, this is a developing story. Don't have all the information yet, probably subject to a lot of change until we get more in the investigation, but I just want to get this out here for everybody so they know. Fortunately, no injuries reported. That is good. Thank God no one got hurt on board. That's a very dangerous situation. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell to be alerted about new videos as they come out. Leave a comment, share it across social media, and if you can, support the page. How do you do that? You hit the super thanks button down below, or head on over to Patreon and become a monthly, yearly subscriber.